On this episode of Travels with Bill, we'll find a big boat, take a moment to go swimming on the beach, and of course, check out some shopping. We're in Riding Mountain National Park and we're going to explore Wasagaming, or as the locals know it, Clear Lake. That's all on today's Travels with Bill, so stick around. Now normally I don't show you the road leading to a visit, but we're going to make an exception today. This is the highway as we approach Wasagaming. We're 3 hours from Winnipeg or about an hour from Dauphin. It's a beautiful drive and certainly worth mentioning. If you're flying to get here, you'll want to use the Winnipeg International Airport or the Regina International Airport. The twists and turns on this drive are divine, and along the way you may well see some wildlife. The speed limit here is 80, so you'll have time to enjoy the view. We're just pulling into Wasagaming and we'll be traveling down the main street right along the beach. Those big bicycles are rented, so your group can go for a pedal tour. And while you're traveling here, you can expect lots of pedestrians. They'll likely give you a wave as they go by though, because after all, we are in friendly Manitoba. The name Wasagaming is Anishinaabe and means Clearwater Lake. That's why you'll find the town referred to by both names. The lake itself is called Clear Lake, and Wasagaming sits on its southern shore. The community has a lot of shops and restaurants to visit, as well as lots of parking. We're visiting on Canada Day 2021, so the town is extra busy with people enjoying the holiday. It's a seasonal town, with busy times mostly from May to October. A normal year sees about 300,000 visitors. We're going to find ourselves a parking spot and get on with a walking tour so you can see a little bit more of what Wasagaming has to offer. We're just crossing Main Street into the main beach area. Now Wasagaming isn't a national park, so you can expect everything here to be fairly high-end. That starts with one of the first things we find. It's the bicycle repair area. If you're riding a bicycle and need to tighten something up or get some air, you'll find tools here plus an air pump to make sure you can keep going all day long. The beachfront area has a lot of green space. In there you can either stretch out and enjoy the sun or do what many do, play a little soccer or perhaps some frisbee. As we get closer to the water you can see the marina, and in the distance that big boat. We'll be seeing it close up in a few minutes' time. Many of the ships in the harbor are actually sailboats. You'll see them sailing around here with people that thoroughly enjoy that hobby. Now it is Canada Day, and it's also a very hot day, so I don't want to scare you off with how many people you see in the water and on the beach here. It's one of the busier days at Wasagaming, so don't be surprised. Many days you visit, there won't actually be this many people, and it's a little easier to find a spot. Now, within reason, almost anything goes at Wasagaming, so whether you're a group under a tree or you set up a little tent for some shade, you'll be welcome here. You can bring a long chair, set it up, and enjoy the view, put some towels on the sand and sunbathe, or almost anything else. Now, at our visit, there's still COVID protocols in place, and you'll see the groups trying to keep to themselves a little bit. There's often some visiting, though, when COVID's not a factor, so you'll make some new friends here as well. We're seeing some more of that green space area here, and some people looking for some shade on this hot day. There's 535 cabins and another 254 cottages at Wasagaming. Plus, there's a very large campground. The area is home to roughly 40,000 cottagers during the summer season, so you can see where all these people are coming from. Add to that the day trippers that come into town, and well, you can understand how it can get a little bit busy here. If you're coming to Wasagaming with watercraft, there's some rules you should be aware of. They're doing a lot of work to keep zebra mussels and other invasive species out of this very clear lake. You'll see these signs everywhere that remind you you're not going in the lake without a watercraft inspection. That applies to canoes and boats, of course, but really anything that would travel from lake to lake needs to be inspected. There's an inspection station available. They'll look it over. If it's okay, they'll attach a sticker to it. That sticker's your ticket to being in the water without having someone question why you don't have the sticker and didn't get inspected. And yes, you can be fined if you skip that process. There's also some rules about the kind of boat you use here. Two-cycle motors are forbidden in Wasagaming and Clear Lake. You can only use 4-stroke engines. They make less pollution and help keep that lake clear. We're looking at the beach here as we go down the boardwalk. It's probably the best walk in Clear Lake as you get to see a little bit of everything that's going on. Normally, Parks Canada information would be found over at one of the buildings, but because of COVID, they're actually set up in the park. We can see them here as we walk by. It's a portable information booth so that people don't have to go into the buildings that are closed to find out more about Clear Lake and everything it has to offer. We're in bear country here, so you'll find all the garbage receptacles are bear-proof. Hopefully they're not also people-proof, because they would certainly appreciate your garbage going safely inside instead of being left on the ground. Up ahead you'll find one of the many little information kiosks in the park. On those you'll find all sorts of interesting details about the park's past, present, and future. As we turn the corner here, we're going to head out across the bridge at Clear Lake. This wasn't always there. At one point this bridge was actually just ground stretching out there. This was made back in the Depression era when they needed some work programs for people, but there was a problem. Because the water was blocked off from circulating, swimmers' itch got really bad in the swimming area. The solution was to dig the dirt back out and instead install this bridge that lets the water circulate. Now you still have a risk of swimmers' itch in all park waters, but for the most part it's not nearly as bad as it once was. We'll take a look back across the water here and you can see how shallow it is. Even the young kids can walk in quite a ways. The lake is so clear that you're able to see very easily where the bottom is. You still need life jackets and such if you don't know how to swim, but look how far out the swim area goes. Those people are still walking in the water and not having any problem at all staying above the surface. There's always plenty of sightseers at Wasagaming, and you see some here taking some pictures and many more just going for a walk. We're coming up on the Clear Lake Marina. Now this marina is open to the public, so you're welcome to take advantage of your services. You'll find a whole list on their website. In short though, they offer boat rentals, so rather than having to bring your own, or if you don't have a boat, you can rent one, either motorized or a paddle boat that you can just go out on without a motor and enjoy the lake. Those are all available. Plus, they now have e-bike rentals. Those are electric bicycles, so you can hop on the bike and have it do some of the work of pedaling around Wasagaming as you explore the community. Quite often during the day you'll see a small utility vehicle going back and forth across this bridge to the marina. That's bringing gas and other supplies out for the boats. They're very good at watching out for people, so you won't have to worry about them, but it can be kind of neat to see it traveling by. We're coming up here on the marina office. You could of course come in person to book something, but they do have a website where you can book online and make sure those reservations are in place. This little spot on the left here is exactly where you'll go to either pick up that reservation or to find out what's available today and make arrangements for it. It's also where they sell tickets on the Martise. That's the big boat up ahead. We're going to get closer and closer to it, but it is worth going on one of the cruises. At the moment, they're offering an afternoon cruise and a sunset cruise. Of course, in the afternoon, you're going to see the lake, well, much as it is right now. The sunset cruise takes you out on the lake so you can watch the sunset from the boat. It's got some wonderful viewing areas. When there isn't COVID, they quite often offer a dinner cruise. That lets you actually have a meal on the boat. You're looking at anywhere from $25 to $30 for an adult for the afternoon or sunset cruise. Of course, that dinner cruise has some meal cost in there as well, so it's a little more expensive. This boat's a favorite of the kids. I've been on it a few times and it is so cool as they travel around the lake. You see the steps there, it's dual layer, so for the most part you sit upstairs and look out, but you can travel anywhere on the boat as it's in motion and check out the whole thing. If you're brave, sit in the very front. Now you will get warned if it's a windy day and there's some waves, the front gets wet. Now you may want to stay to the back if you don't want to be wet, but if you're brave, you're welcome to sit up there and enjoy the water in a way that well, is a little bit unique. On a calm day like today, though, no problem at all. You can sit anywhere in the boat and stay dry. The boat takes off from its launching part there and goes out through the lake, but there's a wonderful viewing area here where you can see a bunch of people that are using those boat rentals, as well as how clear that water is. It is crystal clear compared to some of the lakes. There's a little seating area, and of course it is Canada Day, so we'll take a quick peek at the Canadian flag that flies proud. We'll take another look at that clear water as we start to head back across to the main land here. You'll see a lot of people enjoying the day, and the grass is so green, even though in 2021 Manitoba's experiencing a bit of a drought. There's some folks loading up on a pontoon boat they've rented, ready to go out and check out the lake, and some more people just enjoying a chance to search for minnows. You'll find plenty of them in the water here. The idea to establish a national park here dates back to 1919. Back then, the federal government intended 2 national parks to be built in Manitoba, the Clear Lake area where we are today, and the White Shell area. We'll feature it on a future Travels with Bill. The thing though is the provincial government didn't want 2 parks, they only wanted 1. So with a little discussion back and forth, Riding Mountain became a national park, whereas the White Shell ended up as a provincial park. Riding Mountain National Park opened in 1933. In the 1930s, relief funds were used to do a lot of the park development. Administration and community buildings were built. There's some folks swimming in the water. See again how it's so shallow here and so clear, they can come out a long way. So even on a busy day like today, there's lots of space in the water for you too. Many of the folks that were hired under that relief program were Swedish immigrants, and they had expertise in log and stone construction. Those skills shaped how the park looks to this day. 86 buildings were constructed during the program by the time it ended in 1936. The rustic design of those buildings had led to a tradition of keeping everything in the park following those same elements. It makes for a beautiful settlement. The rustic design was first established in the Banff National Park back in 1887, so there's no surprise that when you're in Wasagaming, it does feel a little bit like you've traveled to Banff. There's quite often a beach volleyball game going just to our right here, so if you're into beach volleyball, hey, come on out and I'm sure you'll find someone to play with. We'll take one last look here at the beach before we move on with some more of the park. Oh, and enjoy that view. The sand, the sun, and the water, plus the green trees make it just the most beautiful place you can imagine being on a summer afternoon. We're coming up on a very popular spot. It's the closest restaurant to the beach. It's the Beaver Tails location. Now, what you ask is a beaver tail? Well, imagine a donut without a hole in the middle, so it's kind of flat, and then you add toppings to it, all sorts of toppings, even bananas. Which, I guess if that's your thing. Anyway, the Beaver Tails are incredibly popular. The building that Beaver Tails is in is also the change facility, so you can go in there and change into some swim attire. There's some washrooms there at all. Here's one of the murals in the park. Now what this is showing us is the height of the different animals you'll see, from the bison to the hare, the elk of course, which around here they'll call the wapiti, wolves, here's a black bear, and of course the moose. You can measure yourself on that little ledge to see exactly how tall you are compared to the wildlife that you might find elsewhere in the park. To our left, we'll see the bandstand. Now, you might find folks playing music there, but you could just as well find someone getting married there. Talk to the park if you're looking to make reservations for that, for something that's kind of important like a wedding. Otherwise, take your chances of it being empty when you show up. Wasagaming has a mini golf course. Now, because it's a national park, it's not just a regular mini golf course. To be here, they had to theme the golf course to look like something to do with the park. So each hole tells a story. It's about some part of the park, from the cabins to the lakes and such. The entire course is themed. It's a wonderful play, and some of the obstacles are devilishly hard to get yourself through and stay under par. The kids love it, but it's hard enough for adults to really appreciate the course as well. If you're looking to play a round of adventure mini golf, you'll pick up your golf clubs at the tennis club of all places. Speaking of tennis club, here's those tennis courts. You can rent time on the courts. They're fully enclosed, so you don't have to worry about the ball getting away. though you may find you have a few spectators that want to check out your skills and see if you're as good as you think you are at tennis. Besides the tennis courts and the golf clubs, they also have ice cream. Now here's an example of one of those rustic looking park buildings. This is a very authentic Riding Mountain National Park. You can tour around the building. In fact, a lot of people take pictures with it. If you go inside, you'll find that ice cream, the golf clubs, and of course, you'll find some tennis balls and tennis rackets, I'm sure too. There's washrooms in the end of the building if you need to take a small break. There's actually a lot of washrooms around the Riding Mountain National Park. That's part of it being a national park and being very accessible for everyone. Let's see how they do with tennis. Is he going to get it? Oh yeah, it goes back. He's doing okay. Does he get it again? Yep, he does. See, he's an expert. I don't think I can make it look nearly that good. As we leave the tennis courts, we'll travel just a bit down the pathway. Another information kiosk waits for us, and then perhaps the favorite part for kids. It's the playground at Wasagaming. Here you'll find swings, a merry-go-round, some slides of course, and some jungle gyms so the kids can tire themselves out. There's benches here so mom and dad can watch, some safety sand and some rocks to keep the kids from getting hurt, and really a fun afternoon to be had. Just behind us are many of those cabins. There's this very short walk. It's about 1 minute from the playground to many of the cabins. You'll find a lot of those kids playing here, plus anyone visiting the park. We'll travel back down the walking path and we'll find the day camping area. Now there is a campground here. We'll see that in a little bit and you can stay overnight. But if you're just coming for the day, this area is for those people who've just come to visit. It's pretty spacious. There's a lot of sites here and they'll hold anywhere from a few people to big groups. They're not reserved though, so if you want a site, coming early in the morning is kind of important to make it happen. If you wait until later in the day, it could well be they're all full. Now we see here someone set up a tent. That's maybe not the most typical, but what we see next, this picnic scene, is certainly what you'll find in the day camping area. Lots of folks from the Brandon and Neepawa area travel here. They'll bring food with them, they'll cook on the fires, they will have a huge party. You're welcome to do the same thing. I once came here about 9 o'clock in the morning to make sure I got a spot, brought some hot dogs, had the family out, and we just enjoyed the day. When we got sick of hot dogs, of course, you can pop across to a restaurant and get some french fries. The sites here are fairly big. They all have room for a fire, and there's firewood provided for day camping. That firewood's free. But if you're staying overnight, you have to pay for your firewood, and it's not a thing to take the free firewood over to the paid firewood area. So be aware of that. The park staff can get a little bit grumpy. We're seeing there the group camping area. It's the big building that you can have the larger group in, or you can of course use the small areas as well. Right beside the day camping is the big parking lot. You'll find a lot of people park here. Now today that parking lot is actually full, whereas most days there's a spot to be found. The parking lot's new just in the last year or two. There's electrical vehicle plug-ins there, so if you're traveling with the electric vehicle, you can get yourself plugged in. Another little kiosk here shows us where we're going in the park, and check out the bicycle. We saw one of these before, but here's a close-up of it. So you can put a bunch of people on it, they all pedal, at least they should all pedal, and around the town you go. Those are available for rent. We're coming up here to one of the other washroom facilities. This is kind of my favorite. It's out of the way, so it's not as busy. Here it's under construction. They're rebuilding it to make it look even better. There's male and female washrooms, but there's also a family washroom here that's an individual location. So if you're looking out for baby or such, you can use that and make it work. We're walking down the street here into the main commercial area, kind of following the bicycle as we go, and we're taking a look at the Riding Mountain Park Museum. It was freshly restored in 2020 and would have been ready to open in the 2021 season, except, of course, COVID got in the way. Once the COVID rules are over, though, that museum is an amazing spot to go check out the history of the area. You'll see some of the animals as well in stuffed form. You don't have to worry about them live, and you can learn about the entire park. Speaking of learning, as you can imagine, the Second World War led to an interruption in park life. But did you know the area was home to a prisoner of war camp? German prisoners cut firewood in the area, and it was used for fuel in many communities. The POW camp here was very unique. In fact, it didn't feel like a prison at all. Being located in the wilderness, it was thought the chance for escape was low. It had no walls or fences enclosing the camp. By October 1943, 450 German prisoners had arrived, and the project was described as the largest work camp constructed in Canada to date. We're taking a close-up look here at that freshly refurbished museum. Now you'll see the sign saying it's closed for COVID, but by the time you get here, I trust it will be open. As with much of the park, it's decked out for Canada Day. You can see the red and white all over it there. It's really beautiful. With no fences or walls and a minimum security camp, you can imagine there's plenty of stories from the POW camp. Many prisoners fraternized with the guards and often slipped away to the communities in the area. Rumor has it some even attended dances. Here's one of the flower gardens that really make the park unique. It's celebrating, of course, Queen Elizabeth. The prisoners kept themselves busy with a choir and orchestra and played numerous sports. Some even raised pigs as a source of meat. The POW camp closed in November 1945. You can still find the campsite by hiking or cycling, and some concrete foundations still exist. Here's more of the flower gardens. If you're into the flowers, walking through Riding Mountain National Park and the Wasagaming site will give you all sorts of ideas for what you can do when you get back home to go gardening yourself. Up in the top of the screen, we're seeing the Parks Administration Office. If you have questions, need help, that's a place you can normally go and find out everything you need. We're walking along that main street here, and you can see the water in the distance, plus of course all the traffic. To the right-hand side, those are rental cabins. There's a lot of them available at Clear Lake, so you can book your stay and stay just steps away from the water. We're seeing a few more people heading to the beach. Looks like they're going to be having some fun on the skateboards. And we'll walk along the green space area here to give you an idea of just how big it is. You'll see all the people here, and there's still plenty of spaces that you could find a spot for yourself as well. On a busy day like today, it may look a little bit intimidating, but normally it's not quite this full. But even when it is, there's plenty of space here for you to enjoy and find a spot of your own. There's drinking water fountains, there's flower gardens, there's practically everything you could imagine or need, all to be found at Wasagaming. We'll jump across the street for a moment and we'll take a look at some of those cabins close up. Now these are all rental cabins, so you can book them. You probably want to book fairly early for the summer season, and you can stay right across the street. Now you'll notice the video is a little jumpy. It was really hot the day we were here. So hot, in fact, we're having a little bit of trouble with the camera recording at full speed. You still get the idea, though, of just how nice it is. These particular cabins are the Idlewild cabins, but there's several different cabin providers here. You can check them all out. Some have pools, some don't. Their websites are a wealth of information to let you know exactly what you can expect to find. The cabins, though, are beautiful. They look like the rest of the park does. Imagine staying here for a weekend or even a full week. The big red chair signifies that we have reached the boardwalk, and yes, as you can imagine, the chair is there for you to take pictures, hop up in, get a couple snaps of that, and show all your friends where you were. The boardwalk is one of the many restaurants right across from the main beach. They have ice cream, so many flavors you can't count them all, plus hot food, and there's a convenience store here as well. Clear Lake has a full grocery store available if you're staying a while, and we're walking through the restaurant district here. We're only about a block away from the water, but you'll find some of the best restaurants around. Some takeout as well, but some of the dine-in experiences are perfect. The nightlife here is pretty cool too. If you're in Clear Lake in the evening or later at night, you'll find music playing, you'll find some entertainment, you'll find everything you would imagine in a very high-end venue. And of course, we are in a high-end venue. This is a national park, so Wasagaming is a cut above the rest as far as things you'll find anywhere in Manitoba for a visit. That's why people come here from across the world. Riding Mountain's a national park, so your Manitoba Park Pass doesn't work here. You'll need separate entry. It's about $10 per person per day, or if you're a family, $80 will buy you a year pass, and that's good for really as long as you want it to be. There's some other options available. You can check with Parks Canada at entry or on their website. There's different fishing licenses here too, so if you normally fish in Manitoba, you need a special national fishing license if you want to fish in the park. And be careful where you fish. Ask for details on the areas you can fish at and the ones you can't, because there's some very specific rules about where you can't fish in Clear Lake. We're walking through the downtown here, looking at some of the many businesses. You'll find a lot of fashions here, some very neat stuff, plus of course some beach attire if you happen to forget yours at home. The shops can be an experience unto themselves, so give yourself a little time to go for a walk off the waterfront and see what there is to offer. There's gas available here as well as a little bakery, and across the other side, not only some neat shops like the Bear behind, but also a movie theater and dance hall. That's pretty unique. You could take in a show on a nice evening and then go out for a stroll and watch the sunset. We've spent most of this episode talking about the Townsite, but there's much more to Riding Mountain National Park. There's Lake Audie, where you can go see another lake, plus some buffalo in the wild, or at least mostly wild. You can get pretty close to them to see what they're up to. There's plenty of hiking trails available, and in the park there's many other lakes. Those often have spots you can stop at and look at them. Nothing's as big as Wasagaming though. This is the commercial area of Riding Mountain National Park, so when you're thinking about staying someplace, eating, this is where you're going to come. Now there is a spot just outside the town site which is a resort area. That Elkhorn Resort offers hotel rooms, but also some cottages, cabin kind of things that are available for rent. It has a really nice indoor pool, and it's a conference facility. You'll find a lot of groups holding conferences here at that facility. We're seeing some more stores here and lots of people shopping on this Canada Day 2021. Hopefully they find just the perfect thing to take home. Of course, there's souvenirs, not only for Riding Mountain Park or Wasagaming, but you'll find lots of Canada souvenirs. That again speaks to the number of international visitors that drop by here every year. If you talk to the locals, they've got some interesting stories, all the way from people showing up in July in parkas because they knew they were coming to Canada and expected the lake would still be frozen, to the complete opposite. Folks coming in January wearing shorts, expecting to see what they saw online, a wonderful lake, but they can't understand why there's so much snow. Well, there's our film vehicle for the day, so we'll hop back inside, we'll get out of our parking spot, and we're going to head on over to the campground. I wanted to show you exactly what that looks like before we leave Wasagaming, so you get an idea of just where you'll be if you bring your camper with. To get there, we'll take a little drive through the town. Now we're seeing a lot of vehicles. We probably should have done this at a different time, so you could see the buildings a little more instead of the vehicles everywhere, but you can still get a pretty good feel for what the park looks like and what you can see, even with the vehicles in a bit of the way of the filming that we're doing. Again, it is a busy day, so that explains why there's so many of them. Many times when I've been to Riding Mountain Park, there'll be about half this many vehicles, which means parking spots are a lot easier to find. We're pulling into the campground here, and coming up on a bit of a lineup, it's check-in time, so we have a lot of vehicles coming into their campsites. If you've already checked in or are just visiting, we can take the other lane here and we'll pass on by. Parks Canada staff are pretty good about getting through this lineup very quickly. They'll even travel vehicle to vehicle, kind of doing a pre-check-in, so by the time you get to the front of the line, you're ready to go. There's a spot just behind us where you can buy that firewood if you're staying here, and this little building that's coming up on the left is the actual campground office. It's all decked out for Canada Day as well. When you visit on a national holiday like this, you can expect to see things looking their best here in a national park. A quick stop at the stop sign and off we go. Now there's a lot of campsites here and they sell out very quickly. If you're wanting to camp in the summer, you'll want to book those on opening day. The park's website contains information on when that day is each year. You log in, stand in line for a little bit electronically, and get the site of your choice. There's a bunch of different ones here. Some just have electricity, others are full serve with water and sewer. For those that need a dump station, we're just passing it right here. You can use that on your way out of the park. We're going to take a drive down one of the areas here that's an electrical service area. So the campsites are pretty nice, really. They're closer together than some lakes, but there's still a lot of privacy between them. Every site here is a pull-through site, so even if you have trouble backing up a trailer, not to worry at Riding Mountain National Park, you can simply pull in and then later on drive the rest of the way out and you'll be just fine. Washroom and shower facilities are second to none in the park. They're a short walk from almost any campsite and you'll find them ready to go. In fact, the showers are included in your camping fees. That's a little different than you'll find at some parks where you have to pay extra for them. You can see the wilderness here as we travel. It's just beautiful. We're in the middle of the campground. We're passing by site after site, and yet it feels like we're in the forest. I did promise some wildlife, so here's this little fella taking a walk in the campground. He's kind of friendly. You shouldn't feed him, but he's not going to hurt you either. He's just passing on by. It's illegal to feed wildlife in the park, as it is most areas. Bears here tend to be kind of tame too, but don't take silly chances. If you do see a bear, stay in your vehicle, take some pictures through the window if you have to, but don't get out and approach it. Canada, unfortunately, has a history of people that maybe aren't that smart when it comes to wildlife, including a woman who was killed by a beaver on a highway when it bit her leg. You don't want to be the next person we talk about, so stay safe when you're visiting the park. We'll take a trip through one of those drive-through campsites just to show you exactly how they work. We're still on the main road here. We'll turn into the campsite just like you would with a trailer and start pulling through. They're gravel, so even with our van here today, we're just driving on through. You see the electrical hookup there as well. You'll get yourself a picnic table and a little spot for a fire, and you simply park, plug in, and you're good to go. When you're ready to leave, drive on out the front and you carry on. So all those people that teased you about not being able to back up your RV, they'll never know, and you can tell them it went perfectly fine when you visited the Riding Mountain Park. If you aren't doing the RV thing, but you still want to camp, there's the tent option. That can be made to work, but they also have a thing called the Authentic. Those are pre-made tents that are already installed. They've got some bunk beds in there, a little table, everything you need to have a camping experience when you come by car and can't really bring a lot with you. They're also available for booking on that same national park website. Check it out. Now we're going to drive out of the campground here. You'll see us passing by the campground office. We'll go back down to the main road that comes into Wasagaming, and then we'll take a quick drive through the town site so you can take one more look at it before we're done for the day. Now there's another website you may want to visit if you're planning your visit to Riding Mountain National Park. That's the Friends of Riding Mountain National Park. They're not actually part of the national park. They're a non-profit organization that kind of promotes the park and the surrounding area. They've got a great website where they list a bunch of events and different activities you could do. They rent some equipment as well. One of the programs they sponsor is the busking. Now the busking is very cool. The day we visited, it was simply too hot for a lot of people to be standing outside playing instruments. But on a cool summer evening, you'll find singers, guitar players, all sorts of things, and some of them are amazing. Bring a few bucks with you. They'll be accepting tips, of course, because they don't get paid. Like a true busker, it's the audience that shows their appreciation to them, and you can do that when you leave a little money behind. You've probably guessed already, but let's be clear. During the summer, there's always an event on the go at Wasagaming. Every weekend has something planned, many of the days do as well. So it doesn't make too much of a difference when you visit. If you want something specific, certainly you can drop by on the weekend you planned, but if you're just coming to the park when you have time, you'll always find something happening. That Friends of Riding Mountain National Park website has a lot of the details. The park website itself does too. There's also the Wasagaming Chamber of Commerce. That's all the business people that get together to make the area even more welcoming. We're traveling down that 4-lane road now that heads on into the Townsite. You'll notice some campers parked on the side. There's some really nice parking spots here. What happens a lot is when you check out of your campsite in the morning, you actually end up parking along this road and then walking into town. It's only a block or two, and carrying on with fun during the day, and you can't just leave your camper sitting there. They're fine with that, of course. You have to move along before nightfall. You can't stay there overnight, but it does give you a few extra hours in the park when you want to see a little more. Just to the right-hand side here, we're about to go by the Friends of Riding Mountain National Park building. That's where you can drop by. This is the little one right there, the brown guy. They've got those equipment rentals, some information for you. It's a great place to start your visit. We're coming back into the downtown here, as I'm sure you're starting to recognize from spending so much time here with us in Wasagaming. We'll take another look at that main drag, and then we'll head on out. If you wanted to do the same kind of video work here, a couple things you should know. Everything you've seen that we've done today is perfectly fine for anyone to do as far as filming goes, but there's a reason why we haven't shown you any drone footage. In national parks in Canada, drones are illegal unless you have special permission from the park. You have to apply in advance and have a really good reason for flying one. There are film and video permits available if you're shooting a movie or such, but it simply wasn't worth it for us to get a drone permit just to show you a couple area shots here. We opted instead to go for the GoPro footage of driving through town and then just some handheld walking around. If you're coming and wanting to do the drone thing, My advice is start early. Talk to the park as soon as you know you're coming and see if they'll allow it. In the Townsite, it might be a little easier. A lot of those drone rules are about the idea of not disturbing the wildlife, so expect that you're going to prove you'll be able to fly a drone here safely, plus without bothering the people or the animals in the park. We're going to jump ahead to the park exit. We'll stop at the stop sign, turn right, and we're going to head south out of Riding Mountain National Park. The road is split here as we're going by the park's admission building. That's where you'd buy that park pass when you first come in. It's got a couple lanes that help you out. Thanks for watching this episode of Travels with Bill. We certainly enjoy having you here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more amazing things from across Manitoba and Canada, from destinations to history and everything in between. There's always something interesting to see on the Travels with Bill channel. We're heading out of the park now and into Onanol, but Onanol's another story for another day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.